What up YouTube, my name is Mabu Nakagawa. I hope you guys are having a great weekend. But if you are watching me on Sunday afternoon or night, you might feel so down because of this. The Sunday scaries. The Sunday scaries are the heavy sense of anxiety or dread that sets in on Sunday afternoon or evening as you look toward the work week ahead. It is a term that has become popular in recent years. Well, in Japan, we don't call it that way. Instead, we call it Sazae-san Shokogun. I believe I don't have to explain what the Sazae-san stands for if you are familiar with Japanese. Anyway, I put a link more about the Sazae-san Shokogun below. You can review the definition of the term so that you can have a better understanding of my content. Sounds cool? Great. If you are suffering from a symptom of Sunday scaries, my video will be much of help for you. It sounds like a spooky channel, but I promise it's fun. If you can stay tuned with me, please subscribe to my channel and then if possible, ring the bell as it's not required, okay? Folks, hear me on this. This problem can be fixed. I want you to be set free from anxiety and dread about your work or school you hate. Let's stay positive and have fun together. I always welcome you. Let's get ready for Black Monday. Today I want to go through with the Resigning Agency Service. I'm sure you don't understand what the hell I'm talking about. It is a service that takes care of all details and arrangements for your resignation. When you quit a job from your dishonest company, you don't want to tell your manager that you want to leave your company ASAP because you know your manager is going to stop you no matter what. Sounds like you want to escape from a terrible job environment, but your manager forcibly grabs your shoulder and drags in. You don't want that crap. I know you don't. If you are from state, I think you can resign your company with no hesitation once you find another better job opportunity, right? My ex-teammates did the same for themselves. Of course, your notice 2 weeks before you leave is highly encouraged. But there are some Japanese companies which do not even let you do that. I call those companies black企業in Japanese. But it doesn't mean I discriminate black community, okay? I'm talking about a company forcing you to work endless overtime for free and unfairly treat the employee with power or sexual harassment. Myself, I've never worked for such terrible company as black企業, but in Japan, there's quite a few people who have no choice but to work in a bad work condition for some reasons. Some people hesitate changing their jobs because they are afraid that they might have a more terrible job condition than what they do at present. They don't want to take a risk unless they have 100% confirmation. Especially if you have to feed your wife and the kids. Obviously, you don't want to change your work environment right away because it's gonna be a big escalation in case it's a mess. Am I right? Yeah. Others love their jobs, but they are having aggressive pressure and intimidation from their boss. If you are in a trouble with sort of harassment, you are better off away from toxic environment. However, there are some people who cannot even quit a job because a crazy company doesn't let you quit. Actually, they are having a chronic issue with a labor shortage all the time. They do not have a good human resource or workforce, but they want to keep hard workers at a cheap price and make more money. Sounds great? Hell no. So, the company put a tremendous pressure on you, right? And keep telling you the risk of your resignation, like how you're gonna take your responsibility for your job and who else is gonna take over your business. I educate you to be the best employee ever and whatever. Likewise, they get so mad. Doesn't matter if it's out of reach with the labor standard law. They tell you many negative impacts of leaving the firm, and in no time, you are trapped. If your company asks you not to quit, it means you are an excellent employee. Whereas, if you were a lazy and useless employee who would have asked you to stay at the firm. I found an interesting story about a resignation from Quora. Tatiana Harrington digested that. I handed in my resignation last week, and I was expecting my boss to congratulate on me and discuss on how we start things with the handover. All she did was slam the phone and not to speak to me. Now all the employees are ignoring me too. What do I do? Well, this is kind of an intense case. Might be a little bit too exaggerated, but I think it's up to Tatiana. I think she doesn't have to care about anything special, right? Are you with me? Yeah. I have a similar job experience with resignation. When I had the last greetings right before I left the company, my teammates were listening to me, and I said, "I'm so happy I finally quit the job." Because I don't have to come to the company every day, make a worthless report and do tons of paper, get the shit out of here. I'm free. I said that, and then they were like, what the Mine is not recommended, to be honest. I'm just giving you a clue if you don't know how to quit a job though, okay? If you can't solve your problem alone, a resigning agency service is available for you. Absolutely works for you. It costs you 25 to 50k Japanese yen on average, but you don't have to worry about any trouble after you officially quit your job. If you feel extremely stressful talking with your ex-boss after you quit your job, you can ask your agency for extra help. Everything you want to avoid is supported by your agency, so it should be good. In Japan, this is kind of unique when we quit the job. You know, some people don't get mad when they quit the job. People tend to care for intimate human relationship even when they leave the company. Atmosphere, so to speak, because Japan is a very, very small nation, right? When you change your company in the same industry, like from Microsoft to Apple, you don't want to lose your social connection with your ex-teammates because you might happen to have a chance to meet them again somewhere. So you want to keep that good relationship all the time. If you don't care, that's still fine. You have your life. But in Japan, if you want to develop your skill set to advance your job career, you need to develop your social network as well. That's a must. Because like I said, Japan doesn't have a large scale sized industry like GAFA, and the overall population is still shrinking. You can't expect yourself for your career if you are bad at how to quit a job. I understand people get tired of doing the same work every day and work for cheap salary. Focus on something you want to pursue instead of something you want to escape would be the absolutely best for you. But if you still have a hard time leaving your ridiculous company, utilizing a resigning agency service would be the best option for you as well. Now, I might be wrong if I tell you this, but I guess working in a company is linked to a part of marriage. You know what I'm saying? When you have a wedding ceremony with your life partner, you guys promise you guys gonna be together for the rest of your life, right? You actually don't know what's gonna happen until you live together. Same as recruitment. You work for a company as an internship, but you actually don't know what's gonna happen until you are officially employed. Pretty much same thing. The only difference is that the company can fire you if you don't fit into a company's vision or philosophy. Divorce is a very, very stressful process, folks. Yeah, you have to file for a divorce or separation to end your marriage. My dad did that. You're gonna have to pay for the whole lot of money to raise your kids for 10 years or longer. Oh my god, that's too awful. So I suggest marriage is supposed to be a short-term contract. Like, okay, we make 3 contract, and once we have no problem in 3 years, let's renew another 3 years and updating, and something like this. You know, if you dislike my idea, please do not press the unlike button below, okay? Because YouTube removed the unlike. If you have your comment to add, drop me a message below. I always welcome you. Let me hear your opinion. So, I might have repeated before, but you don't have to stick to the same company until your lifespan is over. It's already out of fashion and you can gain nothing. I think everything like a job, marriage, and your life should be more flexible. You know what I'm saying? That's all matter of your mindset, folks. There is no special technique or skill, ability or experience or whatever. You can claim this is fair, this is unfair, and if your stupid manager doesn't listen to you, you can then utilize the resigning agency service at a professional level. Also, don't ask your friend or your family for help. They are not going to help you. I tell you what, you realize your friend is not gonna be a good friend for you. Sometimes you might as well pay too much money. Don't save your money. 25,000 to 50,000 Japanese yen sounds a big money, but if you can't figure out what to do, don't hesitate paying your money. That's my advice for today's video. Okay, folks, I call it a day here. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys had a wonderful Monday. Look forward to seeing you when I see you next time.ありがとうございました。